Hello everybody, welcome back. This is Johns Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back with one of our 5-minute history videos. Today I think we're going to head down to Calvert Street, and not just down to Calvert Street, but right in the middle of Calvert Street to the Battle Monument, Baltimore's Battle Monument. It was started in 1815, wasn't completed until 1826, kind of a rather long time, but what do I know? But started in 1815, and it was to commemorate the soldiers who had fallen in the Battle of Baltimore in the War of 1812. And the Battle of Baltimore, even though it's called the War of 1812, the Battle of Baltimore didn't take place until 1814. So a year later, we were commemorating the soldiers who had fallen at Fort McHenry and at the Battle of North Point. The architect was a gentleman named Maximilian Godefroy, and I think I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. He was French, moved to America, so a French American. He actually married the daughter of one of the founders of the University of Maryland Medical School here in Baltimore. His other works, if you want to check out what else he's done in Baltimore, the St. Mary's Chapel, which is in Seton Hill, right next to the Mother Seton House, if you know where that is. Or the Unitarian Church, the Unitarian Church on Charles Street in Franklin, another one of his great masterpieces. He's credited as one of the earliest American architects. But back to the monument itself, it's really got some extraordinary stuff going on. Lots of symbolism. It's known as probably the first piece of Neo-Egyptian architecture in the United States. The base, if you take a look at the base, is made of stone, and it is meant to symbolize a tomb like you would find in Egypt, with 4 doors leading into the tombs of the fallen soldiers. Up at the base itself is made of 18 layers of stones, one for each state that was then in the Union. And at the corners of the base are 4 griffins, sort of symbolizing immortality for the fallen soldiers. The column itself is not just a plain old column, but it's a fasces. And I think that term comes from Eritrea. I probably should have paid more attention in my art history class in college, but I think it originated in Eritrea and was passed to the Romans. It's a bundle of sticks wrapped with twine, symbolizing sort of strength in unity, or the idea of collective action. So here the United States, or maybe even the fallen soldiers, collectively defeating this big foe, the British. At the top is Lady Baltimore, who is on our seal, the official seal of Baltimore from 1827, has Lady Baltimore on it. And on the ribbons running up the side of the column are the names of the fallen soldiers. And that was a pretty radical move for Godefroy back then, to commemorate the common soldier, the common man. A really neat idea. After Godefroy's time, we kept making wars, and we kept making war memorials, but it seems we focused really on the generals on their horses and the admirals and their hats, and got away from really in a meaningful way commemorating the common soldiers. All the way up to the 1980s, when a woman named Maya Lin designed the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C. I don't know if she did her sort of due diligence and looked back on other war memorials and found ours in Baltimore commemorating the common soldier or not, but certainly a great idea in the early 1800s that then returned as another great idea in the 1980s. Want to kind of wrap it up with one funny story and then one more thing. Back about 10 years ago, the Battle Monument was being restored, and we as Baltimore Heritage got to do a tour of it. It was all encased in scaffolding, and I did a little preliminary tour before the real one, just to make sure it was safe. And I was climbing up the scaffolding, and I popped my head up to this little hatch, and was at the feet of Lady Baltimore. And I looked up, and the chief conservator was standing there holding Lady Baltimore's arm in her hands. And my first thought was, what is this New York art restoration guy coming and, busting up our monuments? It turns out that was not the case. The arm he had in his hands was a prosthetic. The real arm had fallen off years before down onto Calvert Street. and this was a fake arm that he was actually restoring the fake arm. Over time, Lady Baltimore standing facing Calvert Street and facing down Calvert Street, 150 years of wind carrying soot and pollution and salt from the bay had worn her down pretty tremendously. When I was up there, she almost had no nose, and her cheeks and facial features were eroded away. If you want to know what she looked like, you can actually see her in the Maryland Historical Society. The original Lady Baltimore is there, proudly on display. What we have on Calvert Street is a composite model modeled after the real one, meant to last even longer than the Carrara marble that Lady Baltimore is made out of. Want to end on one final note. In 1827, President John Adams, then former President John Adams, came to Baltimore and was dining at a hotel at Courthouse Square, which is where right near the monument today, and gave a toast where he toasted Baltimore as the monumental city. At that time, we had the Battle Monument was completed, and the Washington Monument was was nearing completion, just 2 years away from completion. And that was a time when other major cities, Boston and New York and Philadelphia, had no monuments, or certainly no monuments really big to speak of. And here we had two colossal ones. With that toast, Monumental City, we got our nickname, the Monumental City. But John Adams may not be as maybe insightful as we thought. My friend Lance Humphreys, who is head of the Mount Vernon Place Conservancy and a scholar of early Baltimore, has found at least one newspaper article where the term Monumental City, denoting Baltimore, was used before John Adams's famous address. We're known as Mob Town from our political craziness in the 1800s, and Charm City from William Donald Schaefer's days. And if you're a Mayor O'Malley fan, the city that reads, but Monumental City, whether it was John Adams or whether it came before him, regardless, that's still a nickname that I think, I know that I carry on proudly. I hope we all do. I think that's it for today. And oh wait, I have one more thing. I'm sorry, one more thing. Next Friday, we are proudly co-sponsoring with the Baltimore Architecture Foundation a half-hour talk by a gentleman named Jackson Gilman Forlini, who is a preservation officer with the city's Department of General Services. And Jackson's going to talk about public monuments, and especially reinterpreting and reinventing public monuments. Jackson oversees a number of the city's landmarks, including the War Memorial by City Hall, and he's going to use that as kind of as a case study in what you can do with public memorials. So if you'd like more information on that, check out our website, and it's free. Go ahead and register. All right, thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow.